Welcome back, my friends, to another video on the Patriotic pickup build. Update. I went out and got a belt, because in the last video, the one belt that I had bought that said it was supposed to run the power steering pump but not the AC, it was too long, and the one to run the AC and not the power steering pump was too short. The one to run the AC was 63 inches or 73 inches, one or the other, and the other one was 67 and a half or 67 and like 5/16 or something like that. And so one was too long, one was too short. So I went to a local parts store and I told them the issue I was running into, and the salesperson went to the back and brought me back a 65 and 5/16 or something like that belt, and got home, put it on, and it works. It's the right size. So then I went back in online and looked up for a 1990 S10 to see what length belt would run that power steering pump but not the AC, and it actually said a 65 and whatever. And so I started thinking, well, maybe, according to the VIN, this is a 1991, but the 1991 belts did not work on this, really. They were too long or too short. So I got to thinking, well, maybe it's a 90 engine, at least. So I started thinking, so even though the VIN says it indicates it's a 91, it has a M in it, which I think indicates 91, or some letter in there, M or a whatever. And so it's a 1991 model, but maybe they were just reusing older parts, because I know automakers, they make the next year's model the year before. Like right now, you see advertisements on TV and online for the 2022 such and such, because they're already making it, they're already getting it ready, selling it. So I knew it was already, for a 1991 model, I knew it was made in 1990, but maybe it was made early enough in 1990 that it was still using the 1990 parts, engine included. That's the only thing I can figure, because down here it says copyright 1990. If it'll focus on that. 1990. Barely. And then in the door jamb, it has 4/1990, so April 4th, 1990. So according to that and that, 1990, but the VIN is 91. It doesn't make sense, but maybe it does make sense, and I just don't think it does. Also, one other thing is on the engine itself, somewhere, let me grab the light. On the engine itself, it says 90. Yeah, right down there. So I don't know if that's, yeah, right there. So I don't know if that is the manufacture date, or if that's, just, part 90, or I have no idea. I mean, I wouldn't think it would be like, the person that worked on it, their employee number, because, they'd have to change the casting each time. But, so maybe it is a 1990 engine, which, if that's the case, instead of it having 102 horsepower, which I think the 91 had, it has 92 horsepower or something like that. So, it has a little bit less oomph than originally thought, but it still gets from point A to point B. I'm still looking at doing an engine swap in it eventually, but that's going to have to go on the back burner for a little while until I can get some more funds ready, for another large purchase to put on in this. In the meantime, just the little stuff that I can do, now, um, I reversed the top of the air intake plate, so that has a little crack around here to help with airflow. Eventually, I might try to just take the whole assembly off and cut this part, and then it'll just have the base, the bottom part of it being held down by the filter on the inside, and then being held down by the top plate. That way it'll have it open all the way around here. And then also I could cut this top part, this cover, cut it back to where it's still making contact with the filter, but it's not hanging over that far. So that'll also help with airflow, and be just something that I can do, just on my own time. It's not going to cost anything. I already have the cutting wheels and whatnot, so that's not an issue. Then I bought some LED brake lights, but I haven't put them in yet. But my issue is, I read the reviews online, and people said that they swapped it into a newer, swapped those into a newer vehicle, and they were able to get their running lights but not their brake lights. Or if they reversed the bulb in the socket, they were able to get the brake lights, not the running lights. Which I completely understand, because when I put LEDs, I didn't. I put LEDs in these side lights here, and I was able to. They only work, like if I have my lights off, like I'm driving during the day, those will light up. But if I okay, slow down, brain, slow down. But if I turn my lights on, either low or high, it doesn't light up. So I was thinking, well, and then if I reverse the bulb, the opposite was true. It wouldn't blink if I had my lights off, and it would blink if my lights were on. So what I did, and these still blinked both times. So what I did was I put them in there oriented so that when my lights were off, it would blink, because I figure if I'm driving during the day, I need, my turn signals, and so these would flash and these would flash during the day and be more obvious to other drivers. And then at night, only this one flashes, because I figure if it's dark, people would, they'd be more likely to see a light flashing. That maybe not both need to be flashing. I know I need to get that taken care of, but at least I still have turn signals. So so the brake lights, they might do the same thing. And I know when you look up online to see about doing an LED swap, it says that you need to have resistors in line with it, so you don't have hyper flash, for one thing, which is what I am getting with just the LEDs in this one. So these are still regular incandescents, but just having the one LEDs in this side and that side, I'm getting the hyper flash with my turn signals, on the front anyways, not the back. The back's still kind of slow. And these are still slow. It's just the side ones that flash real quick, and the indicator on the inside. So when I get the LEDs put in the tail lights, might do the same thing, and at that point I'll try to figure out about the resistors. I've looked up the resistors, and honestly, for such a small part, I don't want to pay the prices that I'm seeing. Maybe I haven't looked hard enough. Maybe I can just, instead of buying resistors that are specifically for that, maybe I can buy normal resistor, well, not normal, but like for electronic use, for circuit boards. Figure out, maybe I can find out what resistance I need in order to fix the power being too great for something that only uses a little bit of power, and get that fixed to where, or get it figured out to where I can just order just some regular resistors for building circuit boards and wire those in, and then put some heat shrink tubing around it and call it a day. I might be able to save some money doing that way, but I just need to find out exactly how much resistance, how many ohms I would need to use for that. And then if that works for the tail lights, then I can do that up here also. And then then I'll actually have the blinkers able to flash whether I have my headlights on or off. I also would like to eventually put LED headlights, but I don't want them to look like LED headlights. I like the older style that this is. I don't want to make it look too modern, but there's two problems. If I do an LED swap, for one thing, I'm not going to like how it looks. I've been looking for LED headlight swaps, and I do not like the look of any of them that I've seen so far. They just all look too meh. And then also, doing an LED swap yourself, unless you align them right, and so that they're not glaring at oncoming traffic, then they're going to be illegal. I don't want to get pulled over. I don't think anybody wants to get pulled over. I definitely don't want to be driving down the road and accidentally blind a police officer and he whip around and pull me over. So I would also need to take care of that. I've been thinking maybe there's a way, like when one of these bulbs burns out, that I could drill a hole, let the gases out, halogen, argon, whatever's in there. No, it's an inert gas. Whatever it's inert gases. Let that out, and then cut around the where it plugs in, the connector. Cut around that, make a hole, and then get an LED, like a regular LED light that you would have for a flashlight, a high-powered flashlight, and glue that, or somehow make a bracket to hold it to the backside of the whole assembly there, so that and then wire it up, and that way it would have an LED light in it, but it would still have the same housing, the same glass in the front, and the only thing different would be the filament inside, and it would be I'd have to get something that would be the right shape so that the light output and the cone that it projects of light would be the same. So I've been thinking about that. I don't know how practical that would be. I don't know if I could actually do that, but it might be. I mean, it's worth trying. I might as well just try it and see if it works. It doesn't hurt. Don't know when I'm going to get to that, because I don't want to do that to a light bulb that is good. I'd rather wait for it to burn out, so I'm not wasting money. So that might be a while, but that's definitely rattling around in my head. And then let me close this without dropping the phone. Okay. All right. So my wife and I came out here. I don't know if you can see it. We came out here the other night, a couple weeks ago actually, and started drawing on the truck to try to figure out where I would want to put, when I paint it blue and I start putting the stars on it, where I would want the stars. You might be able to see these a little bit better. Yeah, so we kind of came up with a idea for the pattern for the hood and the top. The side is probably going to be about the same as the background picture for the channel. It'll be like that, and then we figured out, maybe the best placement for the stars on the hood. One other thing that I want to do, while I still have this engine in it, is I'm going to cut a hole here and actually put a hood scoop on. What I'm thinking of doing, and so I'll have it like right over the air intake, so again, that'll give me Maybe that'll give me a little bit more horsepower. Maybe instead of 92 horsepower, maybe it'll get me up to 95. Maybe I can get to 100. If I really try, if I really do all these performance mods, maybe I can get up to 100. If not, oh well. But, I want to toy around with this engine while I still have it until I can do an engine swap. But right now I'm just thinking, cut a hole, have it, directly over the air intake, and eventually get a filter that has the filter material on the top of the filter also, instead of just being around the edges of the circle, but also like across the top, one of those conical ones for like you see in larger trucks and for go-karts and stuff like that, except squatter, so it fits, and have that, or if it's longer, might come up through the hole a little bit. That might work. But eventually get one of those, cut a hole there, and then that way the air will go directly toward the filter, toward the air intake, and then as I'm driving, it's going to force more air into it, and that'll help. And it'll be cooler air than what it's sucking underneath the engine. But what I'm thinking is, those, when you go to the store and you buy acetone or methyl ethyl ketone or mineral spirit, stuff like that, it comes in that metal oblong container, and you buy a gallon of it. It's about the size of what I have marked out here. So I was thinking I could go and I could buy a can, empty it out into another can, just buy a regular gallon metal can of something that's empty, like for paint and for mixing paint, and just pour it into that, rinse it out really well, and then cut it to where it's just, to be legal, I think the hood scoop can't come up more than 3 inches. So cut it to where, and the actual can itself is, 3.5 inches wide or so. But cut it to where I can, one side is completely missing. Put that on here, where the missing side is on the bottom, over the hole, and then put some holes in the hood and the can to where I can just run some short little bolts through it and some nuts, and then just bolt it on like that. Put get some gasket maker or something, and just put a little bit of that around it, and cinch it down, and that way it'll be a hood scoop, but it'd be kind of a custom job sort of thing. And then I could just paint, rough up the can with some sandpaper, and then I could paint that too. I have it drawn here and having a large star on it, so I'd be painting the can blue, have a large white star on it. And then that way, I can unbolt it, and then I could just weld in a patch to cover the hole when I do get a new engine in here. And then that way, look the same. Or if I get a new engine and could somehow, I know a lot of, V6s, V8s, many times the intake is directly in the middle between the rows of the cylinders. I don't know if I could somehow bring that up and offset it to use the same hood scoop in order to help with a newer engine, or if I would need to, patch that up and then put a new hole, just right here, to have a hood scoop over the middle, over the intake, where the new engine would be, where the new intake on the engine would be. So I've been doing a lot of thinking, and in the time that I haven't made any videos, I have been doing a lot of thinking. The truck runs. I was driving it to work and back for about a week until I realized that one of my taillights is out. I haven't really done anything with that since then. One other thing, I don't know if you've noticed it in some of the other videos, but there's a lot of mildew on the inside. And of course the weather's changing now. It's gotten colder. It's not as hot as it is, so that does make a difference. But I got in here and I wiped everything down with white vinegar. It still smells like white vinegar even though it's been several weeks, but I wiped all that mildew off everywhere with sprayed it with the white vinegar, wiped, let it sit for about an hour, came back, wiped it, and so far it's looking better. What else? Headliner. This pitch black abyss that you see is where the headliner would go. And I went to Walmart earlier today and I was looking at fabrics, and I took a picture. I'm gonna try to have that spliced in here right now or so, and with some numbers on it, or well, anyway, I was looking at fabric for the headliner, and here's the board for the headliner. But I was looking at fabrics. The one, if I have the picture up, if I figure out how to do that, the picture on the fabric on the far left, the patchwork design is, I don't really care for it. The next one over, the second one is, what was it? I'm trying to remember. It was just the stars on the blue field. And that's kind of one I'm leaning toward as far as putting that in as the new headliner. The next one over is the diagonal stripes, which is okay, but the diagonal stripes, I'm pretty sure, is going to mess with my OCD instead of it being straight across. And then the one on the far right of the picture is just the red and white stripes, which that one might be a contender also. So let me know down in the comments which one y'all prefer, and I'll take that into consideration and probably do my own thing anyway. Just being honest. Because I'm the one that's going to have to see it as I'm driving every time. But at least I'm honest, right? And then to go back to another thing, in the last episode, I'd put these brackets that were all covered in grease and grime and everything. I soaked those in that oil and grease emulsifier that I was talking about, and it worked really. I just let them soak overnight. Well, about 24 hours actually. Let them soak for 24 hours. This one came out really clean. I just rinsed it off. Didn't have to do any scrubbing or anything. This one, however, had turned like that in the bottom of the bucket, and when I picked it up, all that oil and grease that it had dissolved off of the pieces was all stuck to the bottom where it was just laying in it. So I turned it over like that, let it soak it again. I didn't change out the liquid or anything. Let it soak a little bit longer, and then the next night I just got it out, rinsed it off, but I did have to use a rag to clean it up a bit. But I like this stuff. It worked pretty well. Of course, if I could soak the entire inside of the engine bay with that, then that'd be great, but I don't think I can do that. I really want to just take the engine completely apart and clean it. It's so annoying. Everything you touch has this 2 or 3 millimeters of gunk on it. I want to just take it all apart and clean it, but I'll wait till I actually do the engine swap. Once I get that one out, it'll be easier to clean it. And while it's empty, I'm gonna crawl in there and I'm just gonna use engine degreaser and clean the whole thing. Let's see what else. Am I forgetting anything? How long have I been recording? 20? Holy cow, 24 minutes. Oh, well, anyway, I think that'll be all for now. I really rambled on this time, didn't I? But thank you for joining me. Again, like and subscribe if you haven't already, or Okay, subscribe if you haven't already. Like this video if you like it. If you don't like it, then leave it alone. And leave a comment. Let me know what you think about the headliners, which one you prefer. And if you have any more tips or information, hints, help, advice, anything like that, again, please just leave it in the comments below. I'd love to hear it. This is kind of, I have a general idea where I want to go with this, but, a lot of it's changing. I was thinking swapping in a V6 or V8 into it, but then I was looking the other day at some engines and I found a 4-cylinder diesel. And I thought, man, that might be kind of cool to have, just to have a little 4-cylinder diesel in it, and get that going. I also think it would be hilarious if I could swap a larger engine in this to the point where I could tow a huge trailer, and it would be hilarious, I think, to see this little S10 pulling this giant trailer behind it, But I'd have to do a lot more work than just the engine. I'd have to do the shocks and the reinforce the frame and everything else. But I think it'd be funny. Anyway, I'm still rambling. I'll let you go. I guess I'm trying to make up for lost time since I haven't put out a video in 3 weeks or a month or so. But again, thank you for joining me. I'll try to update you all again soon when I get more stuff done. Thank you again for watching. Thank you for listening to me ramble on. I really do appreciate it. Okay, good night.